Daryl Sims, and in today's lesson we're going to be talking about how to play the intro to John Mayer's Slow Dancing in a Burning Room live in LA. This lesson has been very popularly requested, and I have to give a shout out and great thanks to my Patreon supporters who are funding this lesson. If you want to become a Patreon supporter and download a tab for this lesson, then check out the link in the description below. And in this video, you're not only going to learn how to play the intro to this song, but hopefully I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on how to apply these ideas and principles into your own playing. Okay, so let's make a start. I'm going to break it down chunk by chunk. Let me play the first part up to speed for you, and then we'll break it down real slowly and explain what's going on. So the first phrase sounds like this. Let me break that down real slow for you. So we start off with a double stop on the 9 and 8 of the D and G. Bit of vibrato there before we hammer on to the 11 and 9 of the same strings. So you hammer on from the second finger to the third finger, and you actually just slide that first finger like that. Followed by, so we hit the root note there, the C sharp, just kind of a power chord shape. And that's what comes after, so far. And then we descend with a double stop phrase, which is just based off the minor pentatonic scale. So in pairs there, I'm picking the G and B strings on the 9, D and G on the 11, D, G 9, A, D 11. And then we have two chords after, which just highlight an A chord and an E chord. So we're going to start off by playing. Now that's incredibly quiet there. John intentionally starts off real quiet and builds up that dynamic ceiling. So we've got an open A string, and then 4 and 5 on the G and B strings, and then an E major triad shape. So that's based off of a sort of C shape chord here. But rather than use that little finger on the A string, you're going to take that off and use the open E string. So that first phrase all together, played slowly, we would have. Moving on to the next phrase, we have. So you're going to start off with a slide from 9 to 11 on the A string, followed by 11 on the D, and then wrap the thumb over to the root. And then you're going to pinch the E, D, and G strings, 9, 9, and 8, followed by 11 and 9 here on the D and G again. So we've got, and you're going to add that hit there, and we've got something similar, except this time you're going to jump and hammer on again from that 9, 8 to 11, 9. And then, so we're descending again, just like we did earlier. Then, thumb over the top, this is just an A shape. If you're not so familiar with this chord shape, then I did a video on this recently called The Most Important Chord Shape You Will Ever Learn, something like that anyway. But it really is, it's such a versatile chord shape that we're going to be doing a lot of, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. So I went thumb, fingers, and I flick down. Okay, so I slap the thumb on the top there whilst flicking at the same time. Followed by the E triad shape. And then after that, you're going to go thumb, fingers, slide that third finger up to the 7th fret. So, and then put it back before picking it again, like that. And that second phrase played really slowly would sound like this. The next bar sounds like this. So we've got a series of chords there. So straight after the previous bar where we have, you can wrap your thumb around to that C sharp, just play that for a moment, before we have this shape again, and we're gonna go. So that was kind of a descending pattern there. We have that slide down, and then we're gonna play, that was just 4 on the D, 7 on the A. And then following this, we have this A shape, So very similar, these two shapes. You're just going to put that third on the 7 again, wrap the thumb around there, and we've got, I'm going to pick that twice, and then put it back to that E major triad shape. The next part we're going to learn sounds like this. So we have an ascending thirds pattern here, or we start off on a fourth, that's 9-9 on the G and B, followed by 2 thirds, that's 11-10. We're going to slide that up to 13-12. For this descending pattern, we're going to keep your thumb on the root whilst we descend here, similar to what we've already done earlier. Okay, so I'm essentially going like that, whilst keeping that thumb on the root and picking that on the first of every second pick. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and then so that's a hammer on 9 to 11. 2 fingers on the middle 2 strings here, 9, before that 11 again. And then we have this A shape that we did earlier. Notice I put my little finger there. You can't do that if you do a regular bar chord, which is why you really need to learn this shape. We're doing that flick again. And then your E triad shape. Next up, we have probably one of the most challenging phrases of the bunch, so listen carefully. So we're going to start off with our little finger on the 12-12 of the B and E there, playing it with the 2 fingers, followed by this quick slide kind of thing on the 11 and 10 of the G and B strings there. You're going to quickly slide up and down, pull off to the 9, followed by the 11 on the D string. And then you're going to sort of wrap your thumb around here, and we're going to do 9-9-9 on the E, D, and G strings. So then you're going to bring that finger up here on the 12-12 again, and we're going to hammer on from 12-12 to 14-12. Okay, so just on that B string is the hammer on. Followed by, you're going to slide down with the first and second finger to the 11 and 12 of the G and B. And then just following a pentatonic phrase there, 14D, 11D, 14A. And then with the 2 fingers still here on the 11 and 12 of the G and B strings, we're going to hammer on to the 14 of the G there. Followed by another slide down, just 1 fret, so. And then another 4 pentatonic notes here. And then we play your A and E, but John actually makes a very small mistake here. He plays the 7th fret on the E string, which is wrong, but he plays it so quietly that you barely even notice. And then he corrects himself, so he goes. So you see there, he just corrects himself in time before the next chord, followed by the E major triad. And then we have this very cool phrase, which we're going to start by flicking downwards on the 12th fret of the B string. You're just going to bend the strings, like that. So we're going to bend up on the B and down on the G string, which is the 11th fret. So we've got, so we have a descending sort of pentatonic pattern really. And that's 9, 11, and then we're sliding down from the 11 to 9 on the A string before the last note, which is 7 on the A. So that whole previous phrase played slowly would sound like this. Now this next part is probably my favorite of the bunch, since it's got such a strong melody and it's just got such a great use of both double stops and triad shapes. So it sounds like this up to speed. So we're going to keep that thumb wrapped around on the root, which is sort of the main challenge here whilst we're playing around with these other notes. So we've got a pinch here, that's 9, 9 and 8 on those two middle strings with the fingers. We've got, so I'm going pick, pick, and then we're going to flatten that third finger and we're going to play 11 and 12 on the G and B strings. So those are the 3 double stops that we're going to be playing here. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3 in the middle before we repeat that phrase. Okay, so that part slowly. And then we have this A major triad shape, which is just derived from this sort of C shape here, starting on the 12th fret. But he doesn't play that root note, he just plays the triad shape. Before barring this E major triad shape. Conveniently, they sit right next to each other. That's just barring the first finger on the D, G, and B string, 9th fret. And then we have this minor triad shape here. That's 11, 11, and 9, C sharp minor. So 3 triad shapes here, A, E, C sharp minor, before this A chord. Okay, so I'm picking everything and then just using the fingers, hammering on with that little finger on the 7. And then picking the E major triad shape, letting it ring out a bit before the very, very end of the song, which is just a repeat of the A and E chords a few times. But before we play that, let me just play the previous section slowly for you to follow along to. And then to finish off, we have so played slowly, just look out for the hammer-ons with the little finger here. We would have and some more vibrato before the very last note, which is just a 4 on the G string. So there you have it, that's all the parts to the intro there. I'm going to play it one more time for you at a very slow speed right through so for you to try and follow along too. So here we go from the very top now. There we go. I hope you managed to follow along relatively well. If you still found it a little bit quick for you, then click the settings icon in this corner or that corner, because you can control the speed of this video and maybe you'll find it useful to slow it down to about 75% so that you can really see what I'm doing and hear the articulation between each note. As I said at the beginning of the video, if you'd like a tab to help follow along with this lesson, or you'd like to get involved with the Patreon team and help support more content like this, then click the link in the description below. And just one last thing I want to mention before you disappear, and that's that I don't want you to just learn this piece. I want you to actually understand what's going on, or at least begin to understand. So think about the note choices that John makes between these chords, C sharp minor, A and E. Think about the specific intervals that he's targeting, because there is strategy behind this. John's not just picking random C sharp minor notes. There is a strategy, and most importantly, he is following the chord progression, which is what I'm going to be talking about in the next video that I post. We're going to be taking this chord progression and expanding on this idea and essentially learning learning how to create your own intro to slow dancing in a burning room. So keep an eye out for that one. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video.